Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session of the Montgomery County Council. This morning we have two proclamations. We will begin with a proclamation recognizing Mattie Stepanek Peace Day by Council members Lukey, Katz, and Albanaz. And I know there are a bunch of folks here for that, so as they're making their way down, you all can make your way down as well.
Good morning, everyone. This is a very happy, purposeful proclamation. It is an honor to be able to stand here with my colleagues, Councilmember Albanaz and Councilmember Katz, and with the one and only Dr. Jenny Stepanek, Mama Peace, to recognize Peace Day. A lot of folks might tend to think that peace, or when you say you're advocating for peace, you're just advocating for unbridled happiness at all times. And, you know, we're human. That doesn't always happen, right? But the question is, in feeling all of those human things that we do, whether it's frustration or anger or worry or fear, what do we do with that after that? What have we taken the time to teach ourselves, to center ourselves, to be able to take those things that inevitably affect all of us in this world and then channel them for good? Because in peace, there is clarity. In peace, there is purpose. In peace, there is strength. And in peace, there is resilience. Knowing that, and knowing that it takes about 10 weeks to develop new habits, my ask is that to honor and celebrate Peace Day this year, everyone take a little bit of time to say, what could I do that will help me find my peace so that I can be the best me that I can be? Because through that, we have positive community. Through that, we have positive places to be. Through that, we have a better human experience. Now I'd like to turn it over to Councilmember Katz to make some remarks.
Thank you, and thank you, Dawn. You know, it's hard to believe that Mattie would have turned 35 this year. And as time has gone by, we have never forgotten his amazing, and let's underline the word amazing, impact on our community and our world. I did have literally the pleasure of meeting him. Not that I knew him well, and thank goodness I do know his mother well, and she is certainly someone that's kept his life alive. But Mattie grew up like other kids, enjoying games, friends, hobbies, books, but he was born with a rare medical and incurable disease. And at the age of 4, let me say that, at the age of 4, he wrote his first book entitled Heart Songs, and he introduced the concept that each person has a unique purpose within, which was meant to be shared in harmony with others. Mattie was often in the media and was a regular on Oprah and Good Morning America and Larry King Live, and he embraced the media to share his heart song messages of hope, peace, and purpose. During his almost 14 years, he wrote seven New York Times best-selling heart songs, poetry, and peace essays, which provided the message that peace is possible. We're celebrating the 35th birthday of Mattie, J.T. Stepanek, on Thursday, July 17th at the World of Beers in Rockville from 5 to 8 p.m. This is a free event, and it's going to include music, comedy, dancing, and face painting. And please come out and celebrate with us for this extraordinary life. The story that I always remember is that when Susan Hoffman, when she was mayor of Rockville, and they dedicated the Mattie Stepanek park and in King Farm, and she said there was all these black cars that were there, and she looked up and she figured maybe the governor was going to be there. I mean, not that he had told her, but it was Oprah. Oprah came to Rockville to honor Mattie Stepanek because Oprah knows, just like we all know, how important Mattie was to the world. And let me just say one more thing, and I'll stop and turn it over to my friend and colleague, Councilmember Albornoz. But Mattie was certainly very important to all of us in this world. But Jenny, you have taken it all these years, and if there's anything that all of us can agree on, is that we love you. Thank you very much. Mr. Albert.
Well, good morning, good people. It is wonderful to be here today, and hope, peace, and purpose. My goodness, we could use a heck of a lot more than that these days. So I want to tell two brief stories this morning. The first is, and I've shared this before, but I had the tremendous privilege and honor of meeting Mattie and Jenny when I first started out my professional career working for Children's Hospital. And Mattie had a presence. He had this sense of peace all around him. And although obviously he was so young, he provided such an inspiration and hope to everybody that spoke to him, everybody that talked to him, everybody that had the great fortune and privilege to be in his presence. And there's another person who I'd like to uplift and speak about today because he reminds me very much of Mattie, and that is a gentleman who sadly passed away last week, and his name is Tim Strachan. Tim, for those of you that don't know, suffered a tremendous tragedy the summer before his senior year of high school at DeMatha. He was the fourth-ranked quarterback in the country and higher than Peyton Manning at the time, and suffered a spinal cord injury during a terrible incident at Bethany Beach in one of the waves. His life from there moving forward was truly a remarkable inspiration. Tim went on to graduate from the University of Maryland, served as a broadcaster for the University of Maryland football team, graduated from law school at Georgetown University, soared as a public speaker and motivational speaker, and served our country in public service through the FCC. Tim reminds me so much of Mattie because he provided hope and purpose. And so today we celebrate these remarkable individuals, and I also want to echo and thank Jenny for continuing to bring us together, especially in these times of disorientation and challenges and fear. There is so much more good in this world. And so thank you all for being here today. It's important that we gather for events like this. And the last thing I'll mention is this. There is this great ceremony that we all do when we go to Peace Day, and we write a term on a rock that we place somewhere that's meaningful to us. And the term that I have written 3 years in a row now is grace. We all need that right now. We all need to give ourselves grace and this world grace because things will get better. Thank you.
And now I want to turn it over to Mama Peace.
Oh, wow. So I could just say thank you because you guys have said so much of what I would have said. Gabe, you're right. There are more good people in this world than we could possibly imagine. People are generally and genuinely good, and we can all be a hero if we choose to just live that way. And Sydney, yes, I feel so loved. Look at all of the people from Main Street, from UCR, from the community who are here, and that's part of peace. And Dawn, you just sold our foundation, okay? Like talking about how we need to pause and understand peace and practice peace and role model peace. That is what we are all about. That's why we do Peace Day every year. Gosh, I don't know if it's harder to believe that Mattie would be turning 35 this year. I mean, he could actually run for president. I don't think he would, okay? Or that he's been gone for 21 years. And I think about all the years he's been gone and all the work that I do and that we do to continue his message. And in that 21 years, we now have Facebook. We now have technology. We now have all kinds of things that did not exist in his lifespan. The way we're fighting is getting horrible. The way we're ignoring people is horrible. The way we're judging is horrible. And that's like a change since he was here. What hasn't changed is what he gave us to navigate through this. What hasn't changed is the need for his message and his guidance. And for anybody not familiar with Mattie, he reminded us that peace does not begin with the end of some war. Peace actually begins within each one of us, as you were saying, within each one of us, when we tend to basic human needs, when we can say, I am okay. I have challenges, I have disagreements, I have disability, whatever, but I'm okay because my basic needs are met and I have purpose. I know that I matter and I know I belong. I mean, that's what this is all about. How wonderful that I live in a place that Mattie and I chose to live. City, county, state, you all choose to celebrate his July 17 birthday as a day of peace. And how nifty is it that Mattie's foundation gets to throw the party with a purpose every year. And the party is really about coming together and having that conversation, like going beyond your personal table. So when you come to the World of Beer on Thursday, it's not about just hunkering down and not losing your seat. It's about interacting and having a conversation and finding out who your neighbor is. And the really nifty thing is this year, in addition to rocks and mosaic and T-shirts and all the stuff we typically do, we're actually going to pause the party about halfway through and have a global toast to peace in Mattie's honor. We have people around the world who are all going to be on a Zoom screen. Please, technology gods, smile upon me, okay? Okay. But we're going to connect and we're going to raise a glass or grateful hands and put that peace that we know is possible into the universe, all right? Peace always matters. But in today's world, pausing to think about what is peace for me, what choices can I make, what choices can my community make, my family, my government, what choices can we make? That's where we need to put our energy and focus. So please come to Peace Day on Thursday, 5 to 8 at World of Beer. If you have relatives in a country or a state that want to join us by Zoom, message me, okay? And I'll send you the link. Thank you.
For anyone who's struggling to find that peace, I note there's always a container filled with quotes, Mattie's quotes. And every year I take one, and every year I slip it into a different spot. So I have one up here in my desk on the dais. I have one at home on my desk there. I have one in my nightstand. So I think if you are struggling to find that and find that inspiration, come see us Thursday night. I'll be there. I think everybody up here is going to be there. My mom and dad will be there. And so come and join us and celebrate community and celebrate peace. And with that, we're going to proceed with our proclamation. Come on up. The County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, whereas Mattie J.T. Stepanek was a best-selling teen poet, humanitarian, and peace activist from Montgomery County who, in his nearly 14 years of life, inspired people around the world with his message of hope, compassion, and peace through his heart songs, poetry, and vision of community as a mosaic of gifts, needs, and differences. And
whereas, despite living with a rare and fatal neuromuscular condition, and I will not pronounce this correctly, known as diastematic metronidal myopathy, Mattie remains steadfast in his belief that peace is possible, using his voice and platform to advocate for understanding, kindness, and the power of choosing peace, even in the face of personal difficulty. And
whereas Mattie is remembered as a poet, a peacemaker, and philosopher who played and made a difference to millions of people through his writings, TV appearances, and music albums, as well as for being a deeply spiritual young man who believed peace can be taught and begins with deliberate choices in attitude and action. And
Whereas Mattie Stepanek Peace Day has been recognized at the local, state, and national levels, including by the Montgomery County Council, State of Maryland, and the City of Rockville, and 3 U.S. congressional resolutions, and brings together residents of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds for a party with a purpose that includes thoughtful dialogue, inclusive entertainment, and peace-building activities, and
whereas Mattie's legacy lives on through the Mattie Stepanek Foundation, which continues his mission of promoting peace through education, recreation, and conversation, and which coordinates an annual Peace Day celebration to mark his birthday and honor his message of peace, purpose, and play, and
whereas Montgomery County is proud to be home of Mattie's life and legacy and recommits itself to being a community where peace, inclusion, and empathy are nurtured and celebrated.
now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby recognizes July 15th as Mattie Stepanek Peace Day, and be it further resolved that the county encourages all residents, schools, organizations, and businesses to reflect on Mattie's enduring message that peace is possible, and to join in this annual celebration of personal and community peace through acts of kindness, connection, and joy. Presented on this 15th day of July in the year 2025, signed by myself, Council Members Katz and Albernaz, and President Kate Stewart.
yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, and looking forward to Thursday evening. Our next proclamation is recognizing Animal Services Officer, and I see the County Executive has joined us, and I'll turn it back over to Councilmember Katz and the County Executive.
If everyone who's with this on this proclamation, if you could please join us as well. Mr. County Executive, there you. Good. And as they come forward, we'd like to offer our wholehearted congratulations to Ryan Jessian, who has been named the National Animal Control Association's 2025 Animal Control Officer of the Year. That deserves a round of applause. This is highly esteemed recognition, and all of Montgomery County and all of his department is celebrating with us for his contributions to the Montgomery County Animal Services and Adoption Center. We recognize his hard work, his dedication, and commitment as a professional responsible for enforcing county laws regarding stray, dangerous, nuisance, and unwanted domestic animals. And on June 28th, of one of the hottest days of the year, Officer Jessian responded to a call from a concerned Burtonsville resident who heard meowing beneath their car's hood. We are told that you jumped into action and calmly and expertly freed the terrified kitten from a hot engine bay. This is just one recent example of his commitment to animal safety. Colleagues in your office state that you exemplify the very essence of public service and that you are a role model for animal control officers everywhere. You are part of the tremendous team of dedicated colleagues that go above and beyond their job responsibilities to keep our animals safe from harm. You have earned their respect with your work ethic and positive attitude. Congratulations again. We're very proud of what you've accomplished, and I'm going to turn it over to my friend and colleague, the county executive to say a few words as well.
So, first of all, congratulations. And I know how important this department is because I spent 12 years on the council and 6 years doing this, and we constantly hear from residents about how important our animal welfare services are to them. So we've worked hard to build a strong department, and Ryan, you exemplify what we want that department to be. And Sydney told the story of the kitten. The other story I thought was interesting is tracking down the rabid coyote, which I can only imagine tracking down the rabid coyote. And did the coyote know you were following him? And whatever it took to do that was pretty remarkable. It was also pretty important because rabid animals are obviously a danger to all of us. I don't think a lot of residents have fully sunk in that we have coyotes here, but we do have coyotes here, and that's I guess has now become part of your job. I just want to thank you for everything you do, for setting standards that are as high as they are, for fulfilling for our community what we expect out of this office. And so I'm going to congratulate you and appreciate especially your recognition by a national organization. That is not a small thing. Obviously, there are lots of animal control services in the country. The fact that you stood out enough that they would honor you is really important. So thank you.
Carolyn, did you want to?
Sure, I'm short. I'm Caroline Harefield. I'm the executive director over at the Office of Animal Services, and council members, council president, council members, and my esteemed colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am here with really just great pride on behalf of the Montgomery County Animal Services Department to recognize an exceptional public servant. Animal Service Officer Ryan Jeshen, who has been named the National Animal Control Association's Officer of the Year for 2025. Let me make it clear, this is one of the highest honors of our profession. Each year, the National Animal Control Association, representing animal protection professionals across our country, selects one officer, one out of thousands, who exemplifies the very best in our field. And this year, it was Ryan. Officer Jeshen has served Montgomery County with distinction, professionalism, and unwavering commitment to both public safety and animal welfare. His work bridges the gap between law enforcement and compassionate care, responding to complex and often emotionally charged situations with calm, empathy, and sound judgment. Whether rescuing an animal in distress, intervening in cases of neglect, or helping to mediate conflicts between neighbors, Ryan is known throughout our agency and throughout the community for his integrity, his reliability, and his leadership. He has mentored new officers, taken initiative on complex and highly sensitive cases, and has constantly represented Montgomery County with excellence and dignity. He embodies what it means to be a public servant in the truest sense, not only enforcing the law, but doing so with compassion, fairness, and respect. To receive the national recognition in such a challenging field is a testament to Officer Jeshen's skills, professionalism, and heart. It also speaks volumes about the caliber of public service we aim to achieve in Montgomery County. So thank you for your continued support, council members, and thank you for joining us in recognizing this extraordinary officer. Congratulations.
I would just like to thank everyone for showing up for me today. I can't think of a better day to be honored for the service here, and I always say that the only way that I could enjoy my job more is if I were two people, and I'm just going to let that continue to the next day. I'd like to thank my coworkers for their continued support, and that's all for me. Thanks, guys.
We do have a proclamation from the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland. This is, whereas the National Animal Care and Control Association, the NACA, has been presenting national awards since 1988, recognizing individuals whose exceptional performance in the field of animal control demonstrates a strong commitment to the safety and welfare of animals in their community, and
Whereas in April 2025, NACA announced the Montgomery County Office of Animal Services Officer, ASO, Ryan Jensen was selected as the recipient of NACA's 2025 Animal Control Officer of the Year Award, recognizing his outstanding contributions to field operations. And
whereas ASO Jessian has been awarded, has been proudly serving the community of Montgomery County since 2023, his unwavering dedication, compassion, and commitment to both the residents and the animals of the county are truly exemplary and deeply appreciated. He consistently goes above and beyond his duties, demonstrating initiative, professionalism, and a strong sense of service to ensure the highest standards of animal welfare and commitment support. And
whereas ASO Jessian has earned consistent praise from his colleagues who have recognized his exceptional service, noting that his actions exemplify the very essence of public service and that he genuinely represents the best of the best. And finish it up.
okay. Whereas ASO Jessian's dedication to both public safety and welfare is evident in his daily actions, he consistently delivers the highest level of service and attention to the community while always maintaining a composed and professional demeanor. His unwavering commitment to excellence reflects the highest standards of professionalism, representing both the department and the county with distinction. Officer Jessian sets a strong example for his colleagues and earns the respect and appreciation of the public he serves. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the County Executive Mark Elrich and the entire Council of the Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby recognize and congratulate Animal Control Officer Ryan Jessian for being selected as NACA's 2025 Animal Control Officer of the Year and commend him for the dedication, professionalism, and compassion he has brought to the Montgomery County residents and the animals served. We celebrate his achievement and thank him for representing our community with distinction, and it's signed today by the County Executive, Mark Elrich, and Council President, Kate Stewart. Congratulations and thank you. And we're going to get a picture.
Congratulations, and thank you for all the work. Thank you for all the work of Animal Services and everyone who joined us this morning for that proclamation. I want to announce that our colleague, Councilmember Sales, is virtual this morning, and also recognize we have a number of guests today. Some of our Summer Rise interns are joining us for our council meeting this morning, and we also have representatives from Congressman Jamie Raskin's office. Kathleen Connor's here, and some of his staff and interns are with us. So thank you for joining us today. We're going to move on now to our general business. Madam Clerk, will you please share today's announcements?
Good morning. Thank you. Item 5, a briefing on the Montgomery County Department of Transportation parking lot pilot security program has been removed from the agenda and will be rescheduled for a later date. Item 12, a discussion on state legislative priorities, has been moved in its place. That discussion is now scheduled for 10:15 a.m. rather than later this afternoon. And as a council president announced, Councilmember Sales is attending today's council meeting virtually. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The minutes from the June 24th, 2025 council session have been circulated to the council for review. Are there any objections to approving these minutes? Seeing none, these minutes stand approved. So we're going to move on to our legislative session. This is legislative day number 18. There's one bill for introduction this morning, and that is expedited bill 27-25, environmental sustainability, community choice aggregation. I'm the lead sponsor, and there will be a public hearing scheduled for September 9th, 2025 at 1:30 p.m. As way of introduction, I'm introducing this bill given the changes to federal policy and funding of climate action work, compounded by the uncertainty in energy prices and increased demand, and all of that taken together make it vital that at this time we move forward with options to stabilize energy costs for our residents and continue at the local level to advance the county's climate work. This expedited bill would amend the law regarding environmental sustainability in electricity supply to establish community choice aggregation and set forth certain requirements of the CCA's operation. There are three pieces of the bill overall. One is to establish a community choice aggregator as state law requires. The second is set forth certain requirements of the community choice aggregator's operations. And finally, generally amend the law regarding environmental sustainability in electricity supply. The bill would also require the CCA to prioritize sustainability, cost efficiency, stability, and predictability in the provision of electricity. As in terms of background, in 2021, the Maryland General Assembly authorized Montgomery County to establish a CCA pilot program, which allows the county to procure electricity on behalf of residents and businesses from an additional supplier while still receiving service from an existing utility provider. And the county's climate action plan identifies community choice aggregation as the number one most impactful climate action the county can take to reach its climate goals by 2035. CCA will provide the county and residents more options for competitive prices in an unstable energy market. With that, Mr. Ogorzelek, are there anything else we need to discuss for this bill?
Nothing to add at this time.
All right, terrific. I see a couple of colleagues who wish to speak. Councilmember Glass.
Thank you very much, Madam President, for introducing this, recognizing the times that we're in, and I'd like to be listed as a co-sponsor.
Thank you. Council Vice President Joando.
Yes, also thank you for introducing this, and I'd like to be listed as a co-sponsor as well.
Terrific. Councilmember Balcom.
Yes, thank you.
Nope.
Thank you. I would like to be added as a co-sponsor as well.
Great. Councilmember Lukey.
Same here, Madam President. Like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Great. Councilmember Mink.
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor as well.
Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor as well.
Councilmember Katz.
I'd like to join the party. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor also. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And I think Councilmember Sales, did you want to join?
I would also like to be added as a co-sponsor, please.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Sales. Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
I want to join the party.
Okay, everybody's joined the party. Yes, I appreciate. Thank you from doing this from the dais, and my apologies. Given the 4th of July holiday, I did not give my colleagues enough time to do it before we put the agenda to bed. So I appreciate you all co-sponsoring this from the dais. All right, thank you very much. We'll come back to this in September. Our next item, item 2, is a call for bills for final reading, and our first one is expedited bill 10-25, Personnel and Human Resources, Hiring Displaced Federal Workers. The Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee met and recommends approval with some amendments. Basically, this bill would provide a county hiring preference for federal workers whose positions are eliminated or who are subject to reduction in force. The bill would define the displaced federal worker as a former federal employee who resides in the county and or on or after January 1st, 2025, received a notification from the federal government that the individual's federal position was no longer needed, and a notification of personnel action from the federal government that the individual was subject to a federal reduction in force. The lead sponsor for this bill is Council Vice President Joando, and our co-sponsors are Councilmember Friedson, Mink, Sales, Balcom, and myself. When we had the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee, we did have a number of amendments that we recommended. One was to place the preference for displaced federal workers below the existing preference for veterans without disabilities and non-veterans with disabilities. The second amendment was to clarify the documentation that must be provided by a displaced federal worker. The third was to remove the requirement that a displaced federal worker would have to demonstrate a loss of income in order to qualify the preference. We also had an amendment to clarify the contents of the required executive regulations and included a sunset in the legislation for July 2nd, 2027. Before I turn it over to my colleague and the sponsor of this, Council Vice President Juando, I just want to thank him for doing this. And I think as we see the news every day and the decisions coming down from the Supreme Court, we know that the impact on our residents here who are federal employees has been really dramatic, and providing this assistance like we are also at the state level here in Maryland is going to be incredibly important as we help our community weather these storms right now. So, Council Vice President Juando.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for your leadership in setting up the webinars that we've been doing to support federal workers. This is an all-hands-on-deck approach. I never thought when I was elected in 2018 I'd introduce a bill that had to define displaced federal worker. It's just, we're in extraordinary times, and I want to thank my colleagues and all the co-sponsors for this support. I also want to thank the Office of Human Resources, who's really worked with us, particularly the Director, Tracy Anderson, Dr. Lolita Whedon, and Samuel Frushauer for their leadership and help. I want to thank Tricia Swanson from the County Executives team and the County Executive for his support of this bill, and Ms. Wellens who helped draft this bill and guided us through the various legal hoops to make sure it was what we needed. At the core, as was mentioned, this is about protecting our community and honoring the legacy, the talent, the contributions of hardworking federal workers who have been unfairly and in my view, illegally fired and made displaced. This was a conscious policy action by the federal government, by the president. We have over 70,000 federal workers and many more contractors and others who rely on federal government that live here in Montgomery County. We know now that more than 4,000 of them have already been affected by layoffs. And with the Supreme Court case came down just recently here, allowing President Trump to do mass layoffs, including at the Department of Education where I used to work. I've already heard from several colleagues in the last couple of days who don't know, former colleagues who don't know what they're going to do. And this is bad for them. These are real people with real lives who are members of our community, our neighbors, our friends, but it's also bad for the country because these are folks who are protecting our air, our water, making sure kids can go to school, making sure their civil rights are protected. And we're home to so many federal institutions here that do that work. And it's just really callous and irresponsible. But here we are in Montgomery County. And while this won't solve the problem, it's going to be one of the many things we're doing to try to mitigate that and send a loud and clear message to federal employees that we value you, we think you have something to offer, and Montgomery County would be well served by your services if you're no longer in the federal government. And so this, as was mentioned, this would make sure, create a preference after disabled veterans and folks with a disability for folks to get a pre-screened interview and be put at the top of the pile for highly qualified candidates should they meet the qualifications of the job. And we think that's a good thing. We know many federal employees have already been applying to our jobs, and we want to take advantage of that to the extent possible. So I want to thank my colleagues for their support. Our federal workers are not disposable, they're essential. And I also want to urge, as Workforce Montgomery has been doing and others for our private sector, as you continue to step up, these folks are great resources. This needs to be an all-hands-on-deck approach. We're doing our part. We continue to urge our private sector partners to take advantage of the great resource that are our federal employees. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Ms. Wellens, was there anything else before I turn to colleagues?
There's nothing to add. Thank you so much.
Great. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I do want to thank the lead sponsor of this bill. We had many conversations privately about this, and I was not able to attend the committee session because I had a competing committee session that I was chairing at that time. Many of my concerns were addressed through amendments throughout this process, so I want to publicly thank everybody, especially Human Resources, for their flexibility. I do just want to go on record saying a few things and very much support this bill, look forward to voting for it. But to make sure that we send a message to all of our county residents that are losing employment right now as a result of the federal reductions in our nonprofit sector, federal contractors, we are open for business for everyone. And while it makes a heck of a lot of sense to provide this preference, particularly over the next couple of years, we want to make sure that that message is sent to all. And I also would like to humbly request that the Government Operations Committee regularly check in on the implementation. As I shared with colleagues, some of which privately, I was a department head when we implemented the hiring preference for veterans and for people with disabilities, and the execution of that was bumpy, and there was some miscommunication, and it was just not as smooth as it could have been. I have a great deal of confidence in the Office of Human Resources, but I would encourage them, as we always do, if they need additional assistance and resources to implement this new policy with fidelity, they should not hold back, because we want to make sure we do this right and that we don't create more problems than we are trying to solve. So thank you all very much for working on this, and I echo the comments to our federal workforce. We can't thank you enough for your public service, for choosing Montgomery County as your home, and we look forward to continuing to support all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Councilmember Albornoz, for working with all of us on this as this went through committee. I think the bill, as introduced, was a good bill, and as we went through committee, we clarified some things. So appreciate all the work that my colleagues have done and our Office of Human Resources has mentioned. And again, I just want to thank Congressman Raskin's office for being here and given all the work that they're doing at the federal level. As Council Vice President Juando said, this is an all hands on deck effort at all levels of our government to support our community. So with that, we have a recommendation from the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lutke?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutke votes yes. Councilmember Mink?
Yes.
Councilmember Mink votes yes. Councilmember Sales?
Yes.
Councilmember Sales votes yes. Councilmember Friedson?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedson votes yes. Councilmember Glass?
Yes.
Councilmember Glass votes yes. Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz votes yes. Councilmember Albornoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Albornoz votes yes. Councilmember Fani Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Fani Gonzalez votes yes. Councilmember Balcom?
Yes.
Councilmember Balcom votes yes. Councilmember Jawando?
Yes.
Councilmember Jawando votes yes. Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart votes yes.
Great. All right. The second bill for the final reading today is Bill 13-25, licensing and regulations generally, picnics, dances, soirees, and other entertainment amendments. A joint Economic Development and Public Safety Committee recommends approval with amendments. I will turn it over to the chair of the Economic Development Committee to share the committee recommendations.
Thank you so much, Madam President. The joint committee, this bill was sponsored by Council Members Lutke and Councilmember Friedson. It's a well-needed, severely needed piece of legislation. I just want to emphasize a couple of things before I turn it to my co-chair, Sidney Katz, and council staff. I want to remind folks, this is targeting commercial parties. This is now targeting quinceañeras, sweet 16s, personal weddings. We're not talking about that. And I think that's highly important to reemphasize based on the amount of correspondence that we have received and the committee discussions that we had. This is, there are a couple of amendments, including one that deals with making sure this bill is expedited. For that to happen, as people know, you need 7 council members to vote yes. Guess what? The joint committee work session had 7 council members, and it passed unanimously. So I think we covered that one. I'm going to leave it there so council staff can go through the amendments. And before that, like I said, council member Sidney Katz would co-chair this joint session. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. You said it all. We're fine, and we should turn to our staff.
All right, Council. I'll just run through the amendments that were passed by the committee relatively quickly here. Councilmember Fani Gonzalez already covered the expedited action, which had been offered by Councilmember... Someone Lutke offered that? Yeah, Councilmember Lutke offered that. The other amendments all were offered by council staff. They were clarifying in nature. Many of them came from recommendations by the Office of the County Attorney. The first, set forth on page 3 of the staff packet, report relates to the clarification between the interplay of 30-1B and 30-4. As introduced, 30-1B had exempted certain nonprofit entities as defined under the Internal Revenue Code from the application of the prohibition, but Office of the County Attorney pointed out that 30-4 actually has a process for nonprofits to seek an exemption when they are permitted for certain benefit concerts. So this just sort of clarified the interplay to make sure that it was clear what process these Internal Revenue Code entities would need to follow to avoid penalty. The Amendment 3 set forth on page 5 again is an attempt to clarify that related violations are increased only at residential properties. So the bill has 3 related violations that often occur along with the commercial house parties. Those are 31B5, which is noise, as well as 59.3.1.6 of the zoning code, as well as 59.3.5.10, both of which relate to use non-conforming within the zone. As introduced, there could be some confusion that would allow for the increased fine of $5,000 for those even when it occurs at a non-residential party. The Office of the County Attorney recommended and council staff concurred with an amendment that would clarify that the increased fines for those related violations similarly would only be increased to $5,000 when those violations occurred with a commercial house party at a residential property. Again, the committee recommended that amendment 7-0. And the final amendment for number 4, starting on page 5 and spilling onto page 6, was just a technical amendment. We typically refer to the zoning ordinance when we make reference to Chapter 59 within the code.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are the committee recommendations. Councilmember Lukey and then Councilmember Friedson, if you'd like to say anything, as the lead sponsors.
Sure. Thank you very much. And thank you to Chair Fanny Gonzalez for raising the not all parties apply for this, right? I was on a podcast and explained, no, I got married in my backyard. This doesn't apply to your graduation or your bar mitzvah or what have you. And this was incredibly important, not just for my district, but across the county. Where it's not that we didn't have some tools available, they just weren't functioning quite right in terms of both deterrence and enforcement. And I have to say, by increasing the fines and tailoring this the way we did, again, it is narrowly tailored, but gives us a better strategy for managing these events. The goal is deterrence. The goal is that the party not have to happen in the first place. And since this bill was introduced, we had a report of an event that was going to be a commercial house party. It was going to be in Councilmember Balcom's district. And the law enforcement went to talk to them, and they said, we canceled it because we heard there were bigger penalties. Now, they didn't know that the bill hadn't gone into effect yet, but that's exactly what we want to have happen, which is to say we are not going to disrupt the neighborhoods. We are not going to disrupt life, and we are going to not have commercial house parties in residential zones in Montgomery County. So I greatly appreciate Mr. Ogorzalak in helping us fine tune this and make sure we are in the best possible position. And I want to thank our Department of Environmental Protection and our Department of Permitting Services, as well as the police department, for talking through all the issues, right? No one operates in a silo, and it's really important to hear from everyone their perspectives about how things had worked in the past when these situations would come up and how we could do it better. So with that, I thank you and thank my colleagues for their support.
Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the work and partnership and leadership of Councilmember Lukey on this and her whole team, and really appreciate all of the work of Mr. Ogorzalak and the county attorney's office and all the executive department agencies. These are not just disruptive to residential communities, they're dangerous. The type of activities that we're talking about, these were promoted parties turning homes into nightclubs in communities where literally bedrooms were being rented out and table service at people's homes. This is not your quinceañeras or your sweet 16s or your nonprofit social fundraiser or cocktail party at somebody's house. These are promoted business enterprises, and the challenge is the punishment didn't fit the crime. It became the cost of doing business. The fines were so low that they really didn't register at all. And so the positive news here, as we just noted, it's already working. The deterrent effect is already having an impact. We have spared a neighborhood and a community from the disruption and the danger that these issues will and have created. In my district alone, over Memorial Day weekend last year, there was a shuttle service that was used in a community center close by where cars were parked in the community center, and ticketed paid patrons were shuttled in to the home and to the neighborhood where hundreds of people were joining for this event, and there was local media coverage. I won't tell you the sexually explicit name of the party, but you can look it up and read it, but it speaks to the fact that these are not appropriate, they're not safe, and they're not reasonable to have in neighborhoods, and appreciate the work that we're doing here to crack down on them and make sure that we are responding to what is a quality of life and a public safety issue. So appreciate the support, look forward to getting this done, and any law that has soiree in the name probably could use a little dusting off and a little updating, and I'm glad we're able to do it here. So that I'll yield back and appreciate the support of colleagues.
Great, thank you. I'm not seeing any other colleagues with a question or comment. So we have a recommendation from the Joint Committee on Economic Development and Public Safety. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lukey?
Yes.
Councilmember Lukey votes yes. Councilmember Mink?
Yes.
Councilmember Mink votes yes. Councilmember Sales?
Yes.
Councilmember Sales votes yes. Councilmember Friedson?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedson votes yes. Councilmember Glass?
Yes.
Councilmember Glass votes yes. Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz votes yes. Councilmember Albornoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Albornoz votes yes. Councilmember Fani Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Fani Gonzalez votes yes. Councilmember Balcom?
Yes.
Councilmember Balcom votes yes. Councilmember Jawando?
Yes.
Councilmember Jawando votes yes. Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart votes yes.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations, 2 bills done. The next is our last bill for final reading today is Expedited Bill 20-25, Economic Development Corporation, Economic Development Strategic Plan, deadlines. Lead sponsor is myself and Councilmember Balcom. Basically what this does is just provide a bit more time to MCEDC that is going through some leadership changes to provide their strategic plan to the council. We need a resolution because the timing of their strategic plan is actually in our code. And so we needed to put forward this bill to allow them more time under the new leadership to provide their strategic plan. Councilmember Balcom, did you have anything you wanted to add?
So thank you. This is important. And I appreciate my colleagues' support for the flexibility. We will have a much stronger, better product by delaying this just a little bit and to allow the new CEO to put their stamp on it. So I appreciate the support.
Ms. Wellens, anything to add?
Just thank you, Madam President. Just that the bill is short and sweet. It's expedited and straightforward, and therefore it skipped committee, so we'll require the motion and second procedurally. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Friedson?
Appreciate it. I want to thank the council president, thank Councilmember Balcom for all of her work and her thoughtfulness on this. Appreciate the conversations that I've been able to have with the MCEDC leadership. I recognize the need for this. I'm going to support it, but I'd be remiss if I didn't express my deep and significant disappointment in the fact that we are here and having this delay. Executing an economic development strategy is essential for us to emerge out of this current challenging moment, to reverse a stagnating economy, to make sure that we're growing a private sector economy that is more important now than ever, to reduce our reliance on the federal government, to make sure that we are partnering with our local businesses, that we are attracting outside investment. We need that now. We need it yesterday. We need to be working together to move that forward. The whole purpose of this economic development strategic plan that was approved by the bill that I sponsored in 2021, it was approved in May of 2021, was to bring us all together, to have one economic development plan and strategy, and then to execute it, to hold ourselves accountable to it. Unfortunately, we are kicking it down the road a little bit. We need to do that in light of the dynamics and the leadership changes that are occurring. But we need to get this right, and we need to work together to make it happen. It is more important than ever. So disappointed that we're here, but we are, and so we're moving forward. I'm going to support the delay, but we need to make sure that we get the right team in place and that we're working together with not just the Economic Development Corporation and the council, the Economic Development Corporation working very closely and alongside the county executive, who really is the chief economic development officer for the county, to move us forward in a collaborative way in one strategic direction where we're actually growing our local economy again. So I'll yield back.
Thank you. Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you so much. As chair of the Economic Development Committee, I have been working also very closely with MCEDC, and as Council Member Fritzen mentioned, it's disappointing to be here today, but I'm happily disappointed, which I don't know if it makes sense. It does make sense right now because it's a needed pause to get it right. And I look forward to continue working with MCDC and the lead for the council, Councilmember Balcom, to ensure that we move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. As Ms. Wellen said, we did bypass committee on this, given the timing, and it is an expedited bill. So I'll need to entertain a motion in a second. So I have a motion to enact expedited bill 20-25.
So moved.
Second.
I have Councilmember Balcom moved it. Councilmember Natalie Fanny Gonzalez seconded. This is a roll call vote. So Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Lukey.
Yes.
Councilmember Lukey votes yes. Councilmember Mink.
Yes.
Councilmember Mink votes yes. Councilmember Sales.
Yes.
Councilmember Sales votes yes. Councilmember Fritzen.
Yes.
Councilmember Fritzen votes yes. Councilmember Glass.
Yes.
Councilmember Glass votes yes. Councilmember Katz. Yes. Councilmember Katz votes yes. Councilmember Albornoz.
Yes.
Councilmember Albornoz votes yes. Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez votes yes. Councilmember Balcom.
Yes.
Councilmember Balcom votes yes. Councilmember Joando.
Yes.
Councilmember Joando votes yes. Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart votes yes.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Wellens. Item 3 on today's agenda is a work session and action on amendments to the Comprehensive Water Supply and Sewage Systems Plan, Water and Sewer Category Change Request. The Transportation and Environment Committee recommends conditional approval for both changes. I will turn it over to Chair Glass of the Transportation and Environment Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. I see our water and sewer team ambling up. So I will wait for everybody to get situated. Yeah. Thank you, Councilmember Katz. T&E Committee had a work session on June 23rd, and I want to express appreciation for council staff working with the committee and DEP and DPS to figure out a path forward here, because many of these water sewer category changes do get complex, and I want to extend my appreciation to my colleagues for always engaging in a thoughtful discussion of trying to make it all work out and happen. So there are 2 requests here. The first is a Bagari request, or a property request from the Bagari family. The committee concurred with the county executive, the planning board, and council staff that this request meets the requirements for the Potomac Peripheral Sewer Service Policy. There was a second request that does not automatically qualify under the Potomac Peripheral Sewer Service Policy. However, the sewer extension noted above in the first request would then, if that's approved, facilitate the ability for the second request to move forward. So it was a question of chicken or the egg. And we have decided that we would like both of them to move forward so that we do not waste time and more lawyers' fees and more other fees, so that if the first property is approved, the second would automatically be approved. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Levchenko to fill in any of the gaps.
Yeah, you covered it pretty well. Just to note, with regard to the first request, there were 2 sewer extensions that were identified that could serve the property. The executive planning board staff and committee supported the extension that would be in the right-of-way from the intersection of Watts Branch Drive and Circle Drive along Ridge Drive to the Bagheri property. The Potomac Peripheral Sewer Policy does note its preference for extensions that are in the public right-of-way and avoiding environmental impacts and so forth. And that extension was seen by the executive as more applicable in the context of the Potomac Peripheral Sewer Service Policy. That also does happen to be the one that would abut the Lieu request, the second request. And there's also a couple of other properties that are approved for service that would also benefit from that extension coming along as well, which we discussed at the committee level. And just to note, both requests are recommended for conditional approval. So as noted before, WSSC Water would have to find that the extension that I just noted is feasible to serve the Bagheri property. And with the second request, it's obviously very much tied to the first request moving forward and would have to meet the requirements of the abutting mains policy in order to ultimately qualify. So I think what the committee opted for was an approach where for the second request, rather than waiting for the first request to play out, they get a conditional approval up front and can move forward assuming the other dominoes fall into place. That's it for staff here, unless there's questions from council members.
I'll yield back to the president.
I am not seeing any questions or comments, so it looks clear, I guess, to most folks.
There is a teeny recommendation.
All right, so we have a recommendation from the Transportation and Environment Committee. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Is there one? And Councilmember Sales, are you able to give a verbal confirmation? Yep, she raised her hand. Perfect. That is unanimous then. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And thank you for your work on this. As Chair Glass said, the T&E committee really dug into this a couple of weeks ago, and we appreciate the approach and the thoughtfulness on this. Thank you very much. All right, next up we have an interview. I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Matalino, our Chief Administrative Officer, and Ms. Anderson, Acting Director of the Public Information Office, for agenda item number 4. Thank you for both of you being here. And when you get settled, Mr. Matalino, I will turn over to you to introduce Ms. Anderson, though I don't think she needs much of an introduction to many of us. She is the County Executive's nominee for Director of the Public Information Office.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Mr. Vice President, members of the Council. It's a pleasure to be before you. Thank you for the passage of those bills, and we look forward to implementing, especially the bill to help displace federal workers. Very pleased to introduce the County Executive's nominee to be the Director of the Office of Public Information, Mary Anderson. Mary has been an employee of the county government for 35 years, working primarily almost all of that time for the Department of Health and Human Services. She probably predates the Department of Health.
I do.
And Human Services as a combined entity. For the last 6 months, she's been the acting director of the department. She is a longtime resident of the area. She went to high school in Prince George's County, went to the University of Maryland, and then was smart enough to come to Montgomery County as both a resident and an employee. She has helped lead our efforts, not just over the last several months, but certainly during COVID as the sole PIO in the Department of Health and Human Services. She experienced the pandemic like few others in trying to help provide all of the information that we were giving from the county government to our residents, businesses, visitors. So she played a critical role in that effort. And some of you who were on the council at the time got to interact with Mary on maybe a daily basis, a weekly basis, as we were trying to put out messages. She is helping us rethink the the Office of Public Information, continuing to have the role of that office evolve as technology evolves, as the media landscape in the county evolves. So the county executive has been so impressed with her work as the acting director and wanted to make sure she had this opportunity to be the director for the remainder of our administration so that she has the chance to continue to bring the stability that she has to the Office of Public Information and to our overall public information effort in the county by connecting all the various PIOs that are across the county with an overall vision for the county. I had a chance to spend 7 years with Mary as a county employee on the 4th floor in the 90s during the Duncan administration. So I've not only had a chance to work with Mary during this time frame as my service as CAO, but I know how hard Mary works day in and day out because I saw that as a simple junior analyst, as a colleague on the 4th floor. We couldn't have found a stronger candidate, a more dedicated resident, an employee of our county, even to the point we were just talking. If we need an extra bus driver, she knows how to drive a bus, as she was a bus driver at the University of Maryland. And she spends every day walking along Sligo Creek, picking up trash in the morning, too, as she does her exercise. So I'm so thrilled that Mary said yes to this opportunity. And we would respectfully ask for your confirmation for Mary as the Director of the Office of Public Information. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Matalino. Ms. Anderson, I have a few questions for you, and then I'll open up the floor to my colleagues to see if they have any others. But first, please describe your education, background, and experience as they relate to managing the Public Information Office.
So as Mr. Matt, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk with all of you this morning. As Mr. Matalino said, I graduated from the University of Maryland with a degree in journalism. I spent the early part of my career working in various healthcare organizations, 2 hospitals in the Washington area, a hospital association. Came to Montgomery County government when there were still 4 departments. I came to the health department as the public affairs person. I was there at HHS when we merged into 4 departments. I think that my length of service and my experience working with departments across county government, especially during COVID, but before that too, because HHS is such a large department, we interacted with departments all over. I think that breadth of experience, and then the last 2 years that I've worked in the County Office of Public Information, managing the budget, the HR processes, procedures, that type of thing, and serving as acting director for the last 6 months, I think has given me a really good handle on the role of the office, some things that we might be able to tweak and continue the work for the rest of this administration.
Thank you. My second question is the budget for the Montgomery County Public Information Office is $3 million with 17.5 full-time equivalent positions. This is in addition to individual public information officers and contracts found in the county departments, as we've talked about. How do you determine which communication projects take priority and provide consistency and quality control for messaging going to Montgomery County residents?
Thanks for that question. I think all of our work is a priority. We do have to, obviously, within the constraints of budget and personnel, we have to sort of prioritize things. I think that our relationship with the departments, so in the Public Information Office, our PIOs are assigned a portfolio of departments. So they are in regular contact with those departments. So we have a sense of what's going on and we know things that are coming down the pike. So I think everything's a priority. I think we work within our limits to decide what comes first. There are a lot of routine things, but then we're also easily able to adapt to a crisis situation when needed. And I think our ongoing relationship with the departments and with the communications folks at the individual departments, we meet with them on a bi-monthly basis. We're in daily contact with them. I think that helps get the information out and make sure that the information and the messages that go out are consistent and are getting out to the public to let them know about Montgomery County.
Great, thank you. In March of last year, the Office of Legislative Oversight issued a report on community engagement for racial equity and social justice. What role do you envision the Office of Public Information playing in this effort moving forward under your leadership?
So thanks again for that question. In the last 3 years, the Public Information Office has taken over the organization and execution of the county executive's budget forums, both operating budget and CIP. And so we have worked really hard with the Office of Management and Budget, with the Office of Community Partnerships, with the County Executive's Office to make sure we are providing opportunities and doing everything we can to get the word out to the residents that we are looking for your input. We have close relationships with the regional service directors. We work closely at times with council staff and council members because we're constantly looking for ways to connect with the folks who aren't typically the ones at the table, aren't typically the ones coming to the budget forums. We're looking at some new ideas for this coming year, some other ways to hopefully get the word out deeper into the communities using both the RSCs and the relationships they have with their individual communities, the trusted leaders in those communities so that we're hopefully able to encourage more people to get involved and to share their priorities with the county government.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any conflicts of interest of which we should be aware?
No.
All right. Thank you. Those are all the questions I've had. I'll turn over now to colleagues. First, we have Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for your interest and willingness to do this in your very long and productive career here in and for the county, and go Terps. Appreciate that. We do need bus drivers from what I understand, so we might take you up on other duties as assigned, so be careful what you throw out there and what you wish for. I'll just note from my own perspective, and obviously you have thrived in many different roles that you have been in, but particularly during the pandemic when we really leaned on you as a Board of Health and an executive branch and a county government to get information out to residents at a time of chaos and uncertainty and challenge, and you really stepped up to the task. And I can tell you with authority at 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, many conversations, email threads back and forth that we were on together, and many people here were part of, and you really rose to the occasion and really demonstrated your commitment to public service. I just wanted to acknowledge and thank you for that. I'm excited for you to take on this role. And with that, I just had a question for you about your views, given that you have served in this centralized and decentralized aspect of this hybrid communications model, PIO model that we have in the county. What is your view on that, on the current structure of it, and what, if any, plans would you have to make changes to be more effective, to be more responsive, to address a dynamic county with many changes that requires a county government that is changing alongside it?
Thanks for the question, Councilmember Friedson. Having come from a department where I served as the Public Information Officer, my role, I interacted very closely with the Office of Public Information because they are ultimately the ones who are the distributors of the information. So I think that having this hybrid arrangement works well because I think it's nearly impossible in a centralized office to find somebody who's got the depth of knowledge for a particular department. So while I certainly don't think every department needs their own public information officer or communications staff, I do think it's important for the larger, more complex county departments to have embedded folks in that department. Having said that, they work very closely with us, and as I said before, each of our PIOs has a portfolio. So even the departments who have staff of their own, they have a liaison in our office, and those folks work closely together. So I think we can help on the bigger picture part, but I do think it's important to have staff in departments so they can really get into the nitty-gritty and know the department and the workings of it.
Appreciate it. I have lots more questions on streamlining of efforts across agencies, the ongoing conversation that we've had in government operations and fiscal policy, how you see the role in the office working with our other outreach efforts like Office of Community Partnerships to dig deeper and to do better outreach, particularly in communities that have not received information from their county government in the way that they need to, in a language and a cultural competency and that they can utilize and that is helpful to them. But in the interest of time, I will yield back to colleagues and look forward to continuing the conversation. Just thank you for your continued service to our community and our county.
Yes, and I will say if the nomination is successful and you become the permanent director, I think we can have you to the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee in the fall to dig into some of these issues in a lot more depth. So thank you. Council Vice President Jawando.
Thank you so much, Madam President. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Thank you for your willingness to continue to serve and your service up until this point. I do remember the COVID days, and you were busy along with all of us. So thank you for that. Just one question, and I look forward to attending the GO session because there's a lot to talk about here. One thing we learned in COVID, we didn't know what Zoom was. And I'll speak for myself. I think I speak for most of my colleagues at the time. Now, commonplace how we conduct our public hearings, how people can interact with us. There are a lot of people in the county who don't know the services we have, and it's not accessible to them based on language, income, just familiarity with government. We're building on a system where, traditionally certain people had access and others didn't, and we work really hard at that. From that perspective, I see you nodding, so I think you agree with my premise. What coming in, knowing you've got a year and a half to set up hopefully some systems. We're in a very difficult time with the federal government, as we just discussed this morning. So getting information out, access to services, we may have reductions in services, not may, we will. And so what do you see as the biggest opportunity and what needs to change to address some of the things I've just discussed and communicate better, more quickly, more clearly, and cover more people? What do you think needs to change, and what would you want to implement to help address that?
I'd like a few $1 million to implement that. We could start with that. No, I think.
Well, tell me how you'd spend that.
I think during COVID, the county saw some very targeted outreach approaches that were very successful, working with communities of color to bring up vaccination rates, to get information out to people. Unfortunately, that kind of funding stream doesn't last forever. So I think what we have to do is we have to find more innovative ways, more unique ways of doing that kind of on the street outreach, but without big budgets. And I think for us, that means continuing and strengthening the relationship that we have with the Office of Community Partnerships, with the various liaisons in that office. We have started recently to meet, and we're going to continue to do that because those folks are also the eyes and ears. They and the RSC directors are the eyes and ears, I think, out in the community who know more specifically about their particular community. And we certainly want to absorb that information and try to target our efforts with those ideas and information in mind. I think we also need to figure out a way to reach the next generation of Montgomery County residents who aren't the people who regularly or ever show up at a public hearing or go to a public event.
Or check email.
Or what?
Or check email.
Or check email, right. Or look at television news. Obviously, we don't have much in the way of local news anymore, so we've got to continue to find new ways to
Present company excluded, of course,
get that,
who we
yeah,
appreciate. Yeah.
get that get that information out. It's something we talk about daily, and we'll continue talking about it, because I'm not saying that we have all the answers.
Well, I think it's the challenge of our time. It's not a unique challenge to us, but it is something that we really care about. And I know my colleagues who are coming after me will drill down a little bit on specific areas of that, but it's something that we all are really, really concerned about. And I would just suggest that when you do come back, have a little more meat on the bones of what you think we can do. I think you're right. Some of it can be leveraging. We've got Mr. Hawkins here, and his Summer Rising turns, one of your liaisons, the African American liaison. I think leveraging current resources, working with the agencies, working with community-based organizations, nonprofits, people who have, as I always say, there's 1,000 people meeting in Montgomery County every night in some room, and how do we tap into those to amplify our communication that in a way that's cost-effective and efficient and culturally proficient as well. So would love to talk to you more about that, but excited. I know you're up to the challenge and really look forward to supporting you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilmember Glass.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Ms. Anderson, thank you. As has been noted, the work that you did on the county side during COVID was notable and important. But as a relative neighbor of yours, I also saw you after hours engaging residents on listservs and on social media and trying to provide information in a steady, calming way. And so I know that you're burning at both cylinders, and you are absolutely up for this task, and appreciate the questions and comments by my colleagues, because I have noted limitations within the way we communicate. Not only is there the PIO team, and it is noteworthy that a number of your colleagues are all here showing the support that they want to provide for you, and they just gave you all waves. But also there are communication staff embedded within the departments and coordinating all of those activities. And I think there is even greater opportunity to communicate with our residents through people who might not be classified as communicators, but that's what they are. And they are in community partnerships and human rights and in other places where they are engaging every single day, yet they are not classified as a communication specialist. And so I think there's a lot of room for growth. You have been here during your tenure here, you've known how to operate. Look forward to working with you, because not only do I think we have to rethink some of the structures, but we need to rethink how we communicate for reasons you have already stated. And so I look forward to working with you. I don't think there's anyone else who is as qualified as you to take this role. And thank you for continuing to serve our community.
Thank you for that. I think one of the things I'll note about the neighborhood listserv, so when the Long Branch apartment explosion happened almost 10 years ago, one of the first things that happened, and I was with HHS, we opened up a shelter at the Long Branch Recreation Center. It was the longest running shelter operation. It was almost, I think it was 3.5 weeks. Within the first 10 hours, the lobby and outdoor parts of that building were stacked high with donations of everything, diapers, clothes, that sort of thing. That quickly became unmanageable. And so one of the things that I was trying to do was, in addition to us sending out messages through the media and through press releases, was to try to get the information out locally. I live in downtown Silver Spring. I was already a member of my own community listserv, and I joined 4 others so that I could help get that information out. And I think that's what I did during COVID as well. I think if we had a personal one-on-one way of communicating with residents, that would be great. I found during COVID that when I would explain that, okay, there are more than 100,000 residents in that first group, we only get 1,000 doses of vaccine a week, people can sort of understand. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury of having that one-to-one communication all of the time, but I think leveraging things like civic associations and community listservs is also another way that we haven't tapped into on a consistent basis.
And I'll just add to that, as we're coming up on the 9th anniversary of that tragedy, I live right up the road off Flower Avenue, and at the time I served as vice chair of the board of Montgomery Housing Partnership, which was the nonprofit partner to ensure a recovery and a repository for donations. And so, as you just noted, civic associations and faith communities, our nonprofit partners, are also communication coordinators with us. So
absolutely. And
spot
I certainly had that experience from HHS, where partnerships with community-based and nonprofit organizations is key to the work that they do every day.
Very good. Thank you, Madam President. I yield back.
Thank you. Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez.
Thank you so much. I will definitely be voting for you, so let me just put that out of the way. But I get, and my colleagues know this, I get very frustrated with your department. I'm going to give you 2 examples that just happened. On Monday, that was yesterday, Monday. I received an invitation by the Department of Housing and Community Affairs to finally do an event in Spanish on the rent stabilization bill. That event is happening on the 17th. That's tomorrow, and or Thursday. And what bothered me is that, yes, they're finally doing it, but when they communicated that to me recently, just to show up with such a short notice, knowing that this is such an important issue to educate our community about the rights based on this law that was so hard to pass, by the way. And I just asked them, yesterday they translated the announcement into Spanish, and I just asked them, can we have a graphic on the announcement, because it's going to be a virtual meeting explaining people the law. There's no graphic to put on social media inviting community members to attend this virtual meeting on this law. You can feel my frustration. So now I'm asking my staff to do your job, because you guys are not, and it's not a money issue. It's not like give me more millions of dollars to do my job. It's being incompetent. That's what it is. Okay? It's incompetence. And I get frustrated because I should be able to have partners at the executive level. And communication is key. We can pass as many bills as we want, but if we don't inform the community about the rights, then we're doing nothing. So that's one example that just happened. Second example is the issue with DUIs. It was the police department, they're in the back, who approached my office because 50% of the DUIs in our communities are coming from the Latino community. Yet your department has done nothing educating that community. So I put together, a flyer educating the community, a flyer that I even got congratulations by certain people because I really put it, I visualized the issue, and now I see that your department is pretty much copying what I'm doing, which is great. That's the goal, but it shouldn't have been me doing your job. This is what you guys get paid for. And it is frustrating because, we have a department with the HHS, we have the police department, we have all these different things, and there's such a lack of coordination. And it's not money. It's being careless, not being responsive, not understanding that your job is to bring urgency. And then it gets to me and I get very frustrated because I'm the one suffering, I'm the one getting the phone calls. It's not the regional office, you just mentioned them. It's the district council member. And I'm going to drop that one because especially my frustration with that particular office. But we're going to move forward. So I ask you, the other issue that Councilmember Albornoz and I put together like two years ago, making sure that we have paid advertisement in Spanish, and not just say, oh yeah, we just did an interview in Univision, or we have this particular radio show in this very tiny Latino radio station. Is paid, is giving financial incentives to also the media to keep promoting, not just constantly making sure that we get our media. It's also helping our community media outlets to get funding so they can help us distribute and spread the word. I can't even get that. Paid advertisement in Spanish is because and it's not advertising me and I'm highlighting my colleague Albornoz because we're the only two Latino elected officials here, but it's advertising and pushing the work that we're doing in the county so people know what we're doing. So I can't even get that. So it's not a question, it's just telling you how frustrated I am and telling you that I know that I'm gonna continue doing my job by myself because I cannot depend on some of your agencies to do this job. And it's not like and believe me, I don't want to be angry all the time. I'm just telling you that the way things work are wrong. We need to be connecting. There you go.
Thank you. Councilmember Balcom.
So thank you. I really appreciate all the work that you've done through the years. While I didn't miss COVID, I'm glad that I was not in the seat during COVID. I was in another seat having my own crises. But I just want to underscore something that you said that really resonates with me, and my colleagues hear me say it all the time. It's how do we reach the people that we don't reach? And that is just an ongoing issue for not only the county as a whole, but every department, all of our offices. We have such great resources in Montgomery County, great services, but really only a small sliver of people are aware of them. And I liken it to winning the lottery. If you know about the services, if you know how to get the grants, if you know how, when these meetings are happening. So I really appreciate that you have that on your mind. So it's not just the next gen, right? We have to get young people involved, but it really is the underserved population, and that crosses all barriers. Certainly our immigrant, non-English speaking communities, our young people, our seniors who don't read their emails. So I really I look forward to having you in place and looking just strategically about how do we crack that code. And we're individually trying to do it within our offices of how do we reach all of our constituents. So I look forward to having some brain power on how do we do this globally. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Albornoz.
Thank you very much, Madam President. It's good to see you, Ms. Anderson. So I have seen firsthand that dedication to public service and that hard work for almost 20 years now, because our paths crossed often when I was the director of the Recreation Department, and we worked on many crises together to help inform our public and to help coordinate efforts. So I think you're the right person at the right time for this position, and I appreciate the nomination. And there are about 16 months left in this administration, and so I think there's an opportunity for you to not just make sure that the trains are running on time, to improve the coordination among agencies, and to use your tremendous institutional knowledge to help make that happen, and the relationships you've been able to establish both within government and out in the community. Those things I think are all going to be important. But you also, I would encourage you within these 16 months, if you can, to try and think through some of what you've seen, the best practices, where we have fallen short, and document that in a way that can be processed and evaluated by the next administration so that they're not completely starting from scratch. And so there will obviously be staff that continue on into the next administration, but that leadership, I think, is going to be really, really important. And to my colleague, Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez's point, I understand where her frustration is coming from, because we experienced the brunt of the frustration from the community, who shares with us out in the public what's happening and, frankly, what's not happening. And so, and sometimes it feels like, that has drastic consequences, and none were more serious than during COVID, when we literally had life or death consequences. But it's not much short of that now on any given day. And given what we're going to be experiencing with what's happening at the federal level, all the more reason why it's important for us to tighten this process as much as possible. I do have one question. So the relationship between our Council Public Information Office and the Executive Public Information Office is critical. Nobody likes surprises. And I think that how do you envision working with our tremendous public information team on the Council moving forward during these next 16 months to tighten up that communication and to help improve and make sure that we're building bridges?
Thanks for the question. And I get your frustration, and also Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez's. And one of the things I'll say is that what we continue to have to work on every single day is making sure that departments are also keeping us in the loop, not just the second floor, not just the council and that sort of thing. And that is an ongoing thing and challenge that we work on every single day. In terms of my relationship and our Public Information Office relationship with the Council Communications Office, I think we've got a good working relationship. We are interacting and going back and forth, trying to give each other a heads up about, events that are coming up and that sort of thing. I'd like to more formalize that. Like right now, we have this PIO outreach meeting for executive branch staff. I would like to do that with our Public Information Office staff, at least to start with, and the Council Communications staff. And then, so we've got more of a working relationship. So all my PIOs, who are all relatively new to county government, know the folks in the Council Communications Office, and then perhaps and hopefully do that on a more regular basis with the larger group, just so I think that people get to know each other face to face, and then it's much easier to remember, and I can pick up the phone and call so-and-so, or, oh, we need to make sure, we've kept everybody in the loop and that sort of thing. So I think we'll continue, but also build on the interactions between the two offices and with council staff in individual offices as well. I work regularly with some, but not all. I met many during COVID when I would get constituent calls that your offices would forward, but I think we need to continue and strengthen that.
Great. Thank you.
Madam President, if I may, the county executive shares many of the concerns and frustrations that you have. Trust me. And I've heard him say so many times. I think as a council member, in the 12 years I was on the council, I issued 5 press releases. So his involvement with the communications clearly was not as experienced as probably whoever will follow him. But we could use your assistance at making it clear to the rest of the broader enterprise that we have, whether it be MCPS, the Montgomery County Public Schools, the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, the Park and Planning Commission, who all have, and I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, the council, all of the various parts of our county government that are not part of the executive branch, that all of us could spend more time working together, understanding each other, and understanding how we communicate. Because your communications team on this Thank you. There are so many. Did you just turn it? There are so many people that the stuff you put out is that the council PIO team puts out is so impressive, in that cross training learning, who are the right people to get into different networks? Why are we not sharing that information as opposed to holding it sort of as a competition? And you making it very clear to broadly, not just the council staff, but to the larger enterprise, that you want people working together to keep the public informed would be very helpful, because the executive just can't make that demand or direction.
Thank you. I'm going to just say, sorry, something happened with this. So I appreciate that, Mr. Madaleno, and I will just say, we're going to have follow-up conversations on this, because we are an 11-person body. We are the legislative branch. The county executive is the county executive and the administrator of our county government. And if he cannot oversee how communications go out, I think we have a real problem. And I think what you're hearing from some of our colleagues, and I think some of us held back because this is about Ms. Anderson's appointment, but I think if we were to go down just to talk about how the PIO's office functions, how communications functions from the county exec's office, you would hear unanimously dissatisfaction, because we are on the receiving end of it. We are on the receiving end of it when our nonprofits right now are asking us what is happening with grants and other things. We are on the receiving end of it when there are emergencies and when there are not emergencies. And so, as I said before, when Councilmember Friedson was talking, Ms. Anderson, once you get your feet under you and we get through the appointment, we would very much like to have you come back to government operations to dig into this, because as Councilmember Albanaz says, we see this not as just biding the time of the next 16 months and getting to a finish line of this county executive, but really laying the foundation of doing a much better job of communicating and reaching out and engaging all members of our community, especially those who have been overlooked. It is more essential now than ever that we do that. And it is, I believe, the job of all of us. But I also believe the county executive is the head of our government and directs the departments. And so, we're all in this together, but I want to be clear on where certain responsibilities lie. Councilmember Mink.
Thank you, Madam President, and well stated on that front. I think there's a real opportunity ahead of us here as well. There's obviously a lot of growth that we have space to do here. And, while I have never relied on and I don't really see myself relying on PIO for event stuff, I do putting out information about when bills are being implemented and regulations and all of those pieces, and applying for boards and commissions and all that kind of thing. We're really not reaching people, as you know. And that's where, sometimes I'll see on, say, social media, a post that says this bill went into effect and here's what it does. And I'm like, it would be great for everybody to know about this. But 6 people saw that social media post, and where is it in the spaces that people actually are? And then on the ground and talking to people, and I think this is where the frustration is, they don't know. And then we're scrambling, trying to figure out how to help people to know about those things. And I think the growth is really in, we need to find much more creative, modern ways to reach people that are much more in sync with the way the world actually works now. And, and I know that our comms office in the council building spends a lot of time thinking about that, but I also know that the Office of Community Partnerships, they also spend a lot of time thinking about that. And you're nodding, so you probably know where I'm going with this. But I think that a lot of those tools can be implemented or can be used potentially in this space as well. And when we had our council meeting not too long ago with the Office of Community Partnerships, one of the ideas that came up was building WhatsApp groups. And this is just an example of, this is really outside the box. This is really something different. But there are folks who speak languages that are not English, and I know that they are not going to see anything that my office emails out, and they're not going to see anything that your office emails out, but we can send a WhatsApp to a chat group with, 200 Pashto speakers, and I know that they are going to see that. And so that's something that has been very effective for my office, and that I know that you have folks in the executive branch as well who are already exploring that. And that's just one example. And I would say that talking to young people, I think, is really the way to go here, because they know not only where they and their peers are getting information, they're, late teens through mid-20s, they know where they're getting their information, but they also know where their parents are getting information and where their grandparents are getting information. And that's what the grandparents and parents do not know where where the ones before are getting their info from. And so that's where I think we need to plug in and really lean into. We could do what we were doing 10 or even 5 years ago, even a couple years ago, and say, let's do that better. But I think that what we actually need to do is really have a paradigm shift here, especially to reach those communities who have never been properly engaged.
I thank you for that. I completely agree with that, and I think one of the things that we're doing, I have a built-in focus group. I have a 30-year-old. Unfortunately, she went to the dark side, and she moved to Northern Virginia when she got married last year, but she was born and raised in Montgomery County, and I think hearing from her, we've been talking to the Summer Rise students. I want to get more of a connection with the student members of high school newspapers, the editorial staff, regularly talk with them so we're getting their feedback, and we're also feeding them story ideas and that sort of thing to get out. I think PTA, the network of PTA associations throughout Montgomery County, is an important one, at least as a parent. When I had a school-age child, look to the PTA for information. So I think there are several ways right off the bat that we can expand that. But I do think it's going to take a paradigm shift to figure out, how to get rid of the way we've always done things, or at least to streamline that, but also then how to effectively find new and different ways. We've got a Spanish WhatsApp group, but we have started having conversations, and I think your point about other languages as well, because while Spanish is a large, Spanish speaking is a large portion of our population, we also have other groups that we also need to have more targeted outreach to.
Absolutely. And how do you build trust with those communities to make sure that people are joining those spaces, or that you are joining the spaces where they are, et cetera? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Ms. Anderson, I look forward to voting for you. We are truly fortunate to have you and your experience to be in this position. It has always been difficult to figure out how people get their information. And you and I can both go back to even when we had the gazettes and the many gazettes. It started out as the Gaithersburg Gazette and went throughout the county. And then we also had a standalone section in the Washington Post called Metro. Now you can you have to find it, you go through style, you go through sports, it's all in the same section. The world has changed, not for the better on how we can communicate. We're fortunate to have Bethesda Magazine, and it's my understanding that Baltimore Banner is going to start being, if they haven't already, I get that, to start covering Montgomery County even more. And people look at various platforms, the electronic, the blogs, and whatnot. And of course, that also lends itself to information and misinformation. And that becomes a problem. And obviously, your department can't go and figure out every time there's misinformation, because if you don't answer one time, they say, well, you didn't answer that one, and you didn't even see it because there's so many. So there's so many different challenges, but I'm actually, candidly, very pleased that you're here to do that better job. And we all need to work together on that. And a diverse community, which we have the most diverse community in America, needs diverse answers and how we can communicate. So again, I look forward to voting for you. This is not an easy job. We don't need to communicate that to you, but we do know that you can handle all the problems that we've thrown out. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Councilmember.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other council member in the queue at the time. Ms. Anderson, thank you very much. Mr. Malalino, thank you very much. And I can attest to you walking along Sligo Creek and picking up trash because I run by you and get to see you on the weekends and enjoy that. And I did have a question somebody asked me is whether or not you would be the first woman PIO officer.
I believe so.
All right.
So when I started in 1990, no, I take that back.
Okay.
I'm the second one,
You're
I
second.
believe.
All right.
I'm blanking on her name, but I believe there was a person in the Gilchrist administration, and possibly she went into the Kramer administration. I'm blanking on her name. So I'm not the first. Maybe I'm the first downtown Silver Spring resident.
Good.
Female director.
Well,
bus driver, trash picker upper.
I didn't know about that CDL license. That's pretty a good thing as well. So
Fun job.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. We look forward to moving this forward and seeing you in the fall. Go. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Next up, as we previously noted, item 5, the briefing from the Montgomery County Department of Transportation parking lot pilot security program has been rescheduled to a later date. And in its place, we have updated today's agenda to move up agenda item number 12, which is a discussion of the council state legislative priorities. And I think as I see Ms. Wanger making her way down, Mr. Madeline, are you going to stick with us? All right. I see. You have a lot of friends. All right, just to, I know some colleagues had asked this question. This is a discussion today of the legislative priorities. I know we have a letter to Senator Van Hollen's office as well as executive branch state legislative proposals. There will be no votes today. This is just a discussion. So just to clarify that, some folks had questions on that. Ms. Wanger?
So which would you like to start with? And I also understand possibly you already discussed before we came some federal issues, but we are prepared to talk about some federal issues too as well if you
no, we have not discussed federal issues.
Okay.
So I think we had a request from the county executive's office. We received the letter to Senator Van Hollen. So if we want to start there at the federal level, that would be good.
Okay. Sorry.
Good morning. Sarah Morningstar, Office of Intergovernmental Relations. Yes, this letter that is in the packet was approved a number of weeks ago by the county executive. It's a letter that would go to our congressional delegation describing the county's federal priorities. Since the approval of this letter, Congress passed the reconciliation bill. So at a minimum, the intro on this letter will need to be revised to express what is going on for what we're expecting to get from the reconciliation bill. But the contents of the letter are basically the same. As I say, I think, though, the intro is going to have to reflect the passage of the reconciliation bill and the impact that it will have on state and local governments. If there are specific questions about the content of the letter, then we can talk about that. Otherwise, I'll have to make revisions.
Yes, I think so. Just a reminder of our process. When we send a letter, we usually vote on it. We put it on a consent agenda. And so as soon as we'll have this discussion today, as soon as you have the revised letter to send over to us, and then we would place it on the agenda to be voted on by the council. So,
Okay. Yep.
And just as a reminder, it's getting to the middle of July. So on that, and I guess my question was, in reading it even before the reconciliation bill was passed, was the order of it did seem a bit odd to me. That, our transportation is important, but given where we are in our country, and maybe this will be taken care of by a changed introduction. But as we were talking about issues with our federal workforce and housing and human services, it was just sort of the order and thinking about what our residents are facing. It's a 6-page letter. It's pretty long. Gets into some details, but I would just ask that the next iteration that we get back, that we bump up those some of the what I see as some maybe the more immediate needs of our community. Not to say that telecommunications isn't important in the other things, but I think when we're talking about human services and facing the cuts in Medicaid and SNAP and other things.
No, very clearly.
Yeah.
And again, with the
Right.
passage of the reconciliation bill, it potentially upends a lot of what's going on, yes.
All right. All right. So if colleagues have any other feedback, you can provide it today, but obviously if this letter is being revised, you can also direct them to Ms. Morningstar directly after today's meeting, but I'll turn it over to Council Vice President Joando.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. Appreciate that. And just as you're revising, in my role as chair of the Education Committee, I just think we need to mention the almost $7 billion in money that they're sitting on that they haven't funded, the rejection of the cuts to the Department of Education for special populations, including kids with special ed, special needs, and the like, and the oversight that they conduct. And I'm happy to work with you on language. I just think it's important. You rightly say you oppose some of the cuts in the health and human services area, but I think just today 24 states sued the federal government around the education funding, and I just think we want to be loud and clear. There are various streams of funding that are connected to state and local resources in that, and just the lack of oversight that the shutting down of the Department of Education would do. So I just would add that in as well.
Noted.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other colleagues have any questions, comments on the letter to go to Senator Van Hollen? Not seeing any. So again, if you have anything in the next little while, since we want to get this out, I know Ms. Morningstar will be working on revisions, so please reach out to her, and we look forward to receiving the revised letter. Ms. Wenger, anything else on federal?
I don't think so.
Update? Okay.
Thank you. So as we typically do at the end of May, the the Office of Intergovernmental Relations sends out a memo to the executive branch agencies seeking input on their recommendations to pursue state or local legislation for the upcoming session, the 2026 session. So the list you have before you is largely what was presented to the county executive and what he believed to be worth pursuing. And a couple of them are things that you've seen before. And it's just, they're made up of jurisdictions that Sarah and I have. So I'll let Sarah go first on the bike bill.
Okay, so the first bill is a request, and it is a reintroduction, but a request by MCDOT dealing with bicyclists and crosswalks, allowing bicyclists who are in a bike lane to be able to proceed on a walk signal, a pedestrian walk signal. It was introduced last year. It passed the House very late in session and was held up in rules, but it passed, I think, unanimously in the House, as I recall. So we understand it will be reintroduced. I'm having to get confirmation from the sponsor. The county executive supports the bill.
All right, not seeing any questions on that one.
Right. The next piece of legislation is also something you've seen before. It was actually introduced in the 2024 session. What it would do was authorize an increase in the 25-cent fee that was passed in 2015 on TNCs to 50 cents. There's a long history here, and this particular provision was actually included as a state request. It would not be local revenues, but state revenues in another piece of legislation. And in the same year, neither of those provisions passed, obviously, and these bills were not introduced last year. So there's a request again this year for the local authority to increase just the local piece. And recall, Montgomery County has rights to that. If a county or a municipality prior to 2015 was a regulator of taxi cabs, they had rights to raise that fee. If not, then the municipalities within that county also had the right to impose the fee. So that's, I believe, I do know that the council did support it in 2024.
All right, not seeing any questions on that one.
Okay, and the next piece of legislation, I'm going to ask Corey to come up. Where is Corey? He's right here. This is something that certainly it's very specific to transportation and something that I was not familiar with called experimentation that deals with federal law and how the state implements that and some problems the county, not just Montgomery County, but several other counties too, have run into given the process that the state has established for what's called experimentation, which Corey can describe. I would like to just preface this by saying that I think that there would need to be discussions take place of a more serious nature with the Maryland Department of Transportation before a piece of legislation was pursued to see if there couldn't be some compromise met to resolve the specific problem that I'll let Corey talk about.
Good morning, Corey Pitts, Montgomery County Department of Transportation. So, the manual of uniform traffic control devices kind of lays out all the rules on how we sign, mark, do traffic signals throughout the county and throughout the country. MDOT creates their own manual that starts with that manual and then layers in additional things that the state would like to see applied throughout the state of Maryland. The current Maryland manual does not allow us to apply directly to the federal, the U.S. Department of Transportation to experiment, if we think that one of the traffic control devices is not working the way we want it to work, that we can put a request to the U.S. DOT and ask them to experiment and basically conduct an experiment. We would change the traffic control device and we would monitor it and provide them with data on how that worked or didn't work, and then they could determine whether they would want to allow that to move forward. So the state restricts our ability to apply directly to US DOT, whereas most other local jurisdictions throughout the country have that ability. That has hampered us in recent years on some of our transportation projects where we have wanted to submit a request for experimentation. We've had to go through MDOT, and that's just slowed us down. So we're looking for ways to keep our projects moving, and this would be one way. We continue to have conversations with MDOT to try and find ways to work around this without having to put state legislation forward, but that's generally the genesis of the bill, is to try and give us the ability to apply directly to the feds.
And that's the story.
All right.
Okay.
Very clear.
Yeah. And let's see, I think that we have one last piece of legislation about felony hit and runs. And Sarah and
Right. So this
your
is
friends? Yeah.
right. This is the final bill, and I have two people from the police department. Do you want to come up? Just if there are any questions on this. This was a legislative proposal that was brought to the county executive by the police department, dealing with a change in felony hit and run laws, to move it from one section of the transportation article to the criminal law code. And I guess I would defer to the police to describe why this is needed. The county executive supports the proposal.
Good morning. Assistant Chief Dave McBain, Montgomery County Police. So basically, what this legislation would allow is for us to take a felony hit and run case, which is captured in the traffic article, and move it into a criminal realm. In essence, bringing up the seriousness of the act of hit and run, where there's serious bodily injury and or death. Currently, the felony traffic charge is $5,000 5-year for if you seriously injure somebody and hit and run, and then a $10,000 and 10-year if you kill somebody and hit and run. This takes it from the traffic article, puts it into the criminal annotated code, and what it also does is it takes it from the district court and pushes it into the circuit court, putting a little bit more emphasis on the fact that a life has been taken, and that the person who took the life and or left somebody in grave danger or a grave condition and left the scene of a crime, that there's more of an emphasis on the fact that this is a horrible thing you can do, and it brings it up to kind of standards with our fatal collisions involving alcohol and other serious traffic offenses. You have anything else to say?
Not much to add to that. Warren Jensen with the County Police Director of our Traffic Operations Division. Thanks, Chief. The only one other implication with that is the extraditable warrants. Getting other jurisdictions to take it seriously when we have a warrant for this hit and run that's either caused serious injury or fatal. So with it being a traffic offense currently, sometimes there's some trouble with getting other jurisdictions to take it a little bit more seriously. Moving it into the criminal code, bringing it into circuit court gives a little bit more teeth to the extraditable warrants. Thank you.
And the only thing that I would add is, in speaking with our collision reconstruction sergeant this morning, we have 4 cases just this year that are hit and runs involving death or serious bodily injury, and that they've investigated. That's not including probably about a dozen other cases of serious bodily injury where our collision reconstruction did not go out. So the fact that we have these occurring in our county, and it just shows that we're looking to emphasize the seriousness of being involved in a collision, either killing somebody or seriously injuring them and leaving that scene. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of numbers, and I can gear down on them as past years if you need that.
I'm not seeing any questions at this time. I'm sure this is one that folks will want to look at more carefully, the gravity of the situation, obviously, the victims of this, but also what the implications are of moving it to the criminal code. We'll probably want to look at that a little bit more closely as we go through things, but I appreciate the overview as we're looking at this more closely.
I would note too that there's some other things that have been recommended that are kind of in the works of trying to sort out, but we have a fair amount of time here, and we're also interested in any recommendations that would come out of the council also for local or state legislation. Feel free to work with us on anything that you're thinking about too. So.
Great. Is that it?
That is.
I see HHS here.
Well, I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you why.
All right.
Because I thought I got the word fairly late last night that you might want to talk, that the council might have an interest in talking about the reconciliation bill. And with that in mind, we scurried around last night and made a couple of calls. And it's certainly fine if that was, if I read that text wrong, okay, and you don't want to do that, that's fine too. But we just thought we would be prepared if that was part of the agenda today.
Well, we appreciate that.
Okay.
We know HHS has.
I was about to call and see if someone would come up.
So I know that HHS has a big celebration lunch today, and we appreciate that. But I don't know, Dr. Bridges, Dr. David, if there was just spend a little bit. You're here, and if you're here, and Dr. Ashford, if you're here, don't want to lose the opportunity to hear from you. We know we did have an excellent public health update just a few weeks ago, but there's anything that you wanted to add to that for us?
So good morning, Council President Stewart and the council members sitting this morning. I have nothing else to add. It's just Mary Anderson came from HHS. Mm-hmm. She was here, and the Care Bears always show out for one of our own. Yeah. So we showed up for her to support her. There are a lot of things that are going on now, and I appreciate the opportunity to always present before council, but we're really working with CAO Madaleno and other parts of the executive branch. Hopefully we will have future conversation. There's a lot going on that we're unpacking.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff that we're doing now, we're using some of the models from COVID. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of intuitive thought going behind all of the stuff that's going on at the federal and the state level. And so we welcome the opportunity to share those things, but we are strategically planning for that moment now. HHS doesn't work, and so we're here. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Davis, if
I will just echo that. I think a lot of the work, and Dr. Bridgers alluded to this, I think a lot of the work right now is really focusing on what our priorities and vision are. As we, see all of the changes happen, we know that we are prioritizing equity, we are prioritizing the most vulnerable. We know that pockets of places that don't have health is not good for anybody. That's what COVID taught us, right? And so how we as a department are starting to have those conversations on how we prioritize so that we're making sure that the most vulnerable are not left behind as some of the funding goes away. And I think we will look towards council and the county executive to also give us cover and funding to be able to do some of those things as the money gets tight, to be able to serve the folks who we know need to be served, and the funding streams to be able to serve them are starting to dry up. And we'll look to partners who are sitting in front of us to be able to continue to do that.
Great.
We have also been working closely with the state, amongst the health officers, amongst the COG, which is the National Capital Region, in terms of how we plan together for the changes that are coming, because we know that people and patients don't know county lines or state lines. And so we work collaboratively with folks across the state and across the DC region to really help to address that impact as it comes.
Great, thank you. Dr. Ashford, anything to add?
I think all good points have been made.
Great. Well, we appreciate you being here as always, and the work that you're doing, and look forward to the celebration later today. So thank you for being here. Mr. Malino, yes, you want to
Thank
jump
you very much, Madam President. One of the reasons why I stayed is Ms.
Yeah.
Wenger asked me to be here
Okay.
for this conversation.
All right.
So I just wanted to remind people, because you may not know this, state law requires the Bureau of Revenue Estimates to do an analysis of changes to the Internal Revenue Code that impact the state within 60 days of their passage. So that work has started. They will have that report ready if you go from 60 days from when the big bill passed. So that'll be in early September.
Yep.
That will be rolling out probably in advance of the Board of Revenue Estimates meeting, which is always in September. They just don't have a date, but it's usually at the end of September. So there'll be new revenue estimates out, and specific ones tied to the actions of this bill and how it might impact the state and then all of us. There is a decoupling provision in state law that was passed after the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017, that says if there's more than $5 million impact on the state is automatically decoupled from that change in the determination of your gross income that's taxable. So obviously this analysis will make that determination of, like, for example, the provisions on overtime or on tipped wages, and how that will play through to your determination of your gross income for your state and then local taxes. So all of that will be coming out over the next 2 months. And I wanted to make sure to remind everyone of that. The General Assembly has put together a joint committee on federal impacts. They've had one meeting where both the Department of Legislative Services as well as the Governor's Office of Federal Relations provided an update as to what the bill would do. Those documents are all online. I know Legislative Services is updating that information. There'll be another hearing, I'm sure, that will talk about the implications of the big bill. Many of the provisions that you've heard the HHS team talk about obviously were delayed until, I don't know, after next November. So the impact we will have to figure out, but we are working very hard on Medicaid eligibility and how that will impact everyone's work and all of our partners across the county. SNAP determination on all the things we do uniquely as we're celebrating the Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services. It is like no other entity in the state. Very few parallels around where we're doing the eligibility determination. So we're going to have to work through that with our partners at the state level, because obviously that impacts us differently than the 23 other jurisdictions. But just wanted to be here to answer those questions and remind people of some of the things that were put in place after the last Trump administration that automatically are kicking in now at the state level that will inform the discussion at the summer conference of Mako and lots of other conversations over the next several months as we try to maneuver and figure out how the terrible, horrible, not good, very bad big bill is impacting all of us.
Thank you. Well, thank you for staying, and everyone for this. We will continue the conversation. And
Sure.
Morningstar, we look forward to the updated letter to Senator Van Holland. Anything else at the moment?
No, thanks for the time.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. With that, we are in recess until 1:30. Oh, consent. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And Ms. Feinberg is right here in front of me. My apologies. I was getting anxious for the HHS lunch. So thank you very much. Item 6 on today's agenda is the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
Council Vice President Joando moved. Councilmember Friedson second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And Councilmember Sales, who's virtual, if you want to virtually raise your hand, or
Yes.
thank you. That is unanimous. And thank you, Ms. Feinberg, for joining us today and being appointed to the BIT. And thank you for your service in doing that. Now we will be in recess until 1:30, when we will have a number of public hearings this afternoon. Thank you very much.